Hello, 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 everybody. Everybody. What's cracking? What's happening? What's going on? How is everybody doing? Guys, don't you just hate it? Don't you just hate the barrier people do when they're having a conversation? Hear me out, guys. Hear me out. So, I am a conversation person. However, half of my conversations do not kind of go anywhere or do not finish sometimes. Or they finish incorrectly. Or let's just say we're at work, and we're conversating and stuff. Half of that time we're conversating, it gets cut by either a customer or someone just walking nearby and say something. Like, we get delusional. There are some business people, I'm talking about business distracted people, where they put a barrier between them talking. Now, hear me out. I used to have a job, and at this job they had the lift program. There was a guy, he was chubby. Let me see if I remember his name, because we no longer work there, so we can explode names. Let me see. I don't know if it was Jason or John. Let's just give him a name. Let's give him Jason. His name is Jason for right now. So Jason was a big, chubby guy. And it looked like he could only focus. He's a focused person. So he was conversating all the time. He always conversates. And when he conversates and doesn't not leech off of any other subject. He's just talking about the subject. And just onto that subject, and that's it. Nobody else is taking his attention off of that subject at all. And you walk up on there, you're trying to talk to him like, hey, I need this person outside, or I need to talk to you, or this person right here. You have to wait because they're supposedly in their own world, in their own meeting. Like if they were having a high class meeting. And every time I spoke in between, he called me rude. He called me rude. That why am I so rude for? Like, I'm conversating and you bug in and come in and say something. What do you mean I'm being rude because I come in? Everybody comes in. If I'm talking to a coworker and a customer comes up to us and says, "Hey, where's this and that?" and we're conversating, am I going to be like, "Oh, how rude"? No, we're going to actually help the customer find what they need because it's called customer service. And the conversation ends, and then it comes back, and then it ends and it comes back, because that's the way our brains kind of work. However, some people put this barrier in between where it's their meeting barrier. I call it, probably it's called a meeting barrier, where they think they're in a box talking to one person and nobody can disrupt that box. You ever feel that way with some people? You ever feel that way with some people? Some people are in their own little box, and you try talking. Like, let's say you need their attention, and if it's management, let's say it's management, and management starts talking. It's just two people. It's mostly two people, and then management starts talking, and then they're in a little barrier on their own, and then you tell them that you need that other manager. You, like, personally, let's say, oh, okay, well, the customer asked for a manager, so let's go walk to the manager and ask for the manager to come up to the front. You can't, because they're in a meeting, in a little criteria meeting, and you cannot disrupt that barrier. And when you try, they ignore you, and they're just there. They don't care what you say. And I said, I need a manager here, and they're just not existing. You're non-existing. You're like, hey, I need a manager. Is there any way you can help me up front? I need some help up front. And you're just, there's a barrier where it's like, oh, how rude. We're talking in a little zone and this person comes up and says you need help. You ever get that? Do you ever get that? Have you ever gotten that, guys? Because I have. I have. Personally, I have been through so much. And it's like, if somebody wants to interrupt me in my conversation, that's it. The person that I'm talking to just like automatically, oh, just distance themselves. It's like, my conversation was not good enough. And they got distracted. Hey, do you want a soda? Oh, yeah, I want a soda. Like, what the heck? I was just talking to you, and you just said, if I'm talking to a person and I'm giving them like a whole bunch of story or whatnot, and some other person comes up and says, "Hey, you want a soda?" And then like, "Oh yeah, I want a soda." That truly means that they're not engaged in my conversation. So I guess I'm the boring one. So obviously these people always put this barrier in between where it's like engage with me, you have to talk to me, you're in a barrier, and if you look away you get distracted and you cannot get distracted. Now guys, if you haven't seen my previous video, I think it was it might have been season 3, I think it was the beginning of season 3 or so, about my highly toxic old manager that I used to work at DV8 Autosport. And he was so toxic that he didn't want you to look away. He wanted you to look directly in his eyes at all times so that way you can engage in his conversation. He did not want you to look away or get distracted. He's like, you look right here, you look right here. And I'm like, dude, why are you just trying to train me to be looking at you constantly? Like, there's a whole full video about this old boss that I had. Very toxic. Give me a sec, guys. Oh wait, I'm actually gonna do one more live stream. Hold on. I forgot about it. Almost forgot it because I need to do 5 live streams. I'll just put this in here for right now. Oh wait a minute. Barriers. These barriers do not let us function. If I try to make a barrier with a person, that person just, oh, okay, I can't. They don't want to talk to me anymore, and then they just go drift away. Like, I don't know, man. Could be just me that people just don't want to hear me out or anything like that. But I've always encountered this random mofo barrier that people do. This random barrier that when you're conversating with them, they just put it up. Or they're conversating by themselves. They're having their own little meeting. If you try to disrupt that meeting, you're rude. You're so-called rude. However, if someone tries to disrupt me, I can't call them rude because they'll be like, but I need your help, like this customer needs help. If my manager and I are talking and I say, hey, I need a manager, I'm like, okay, I'm right there. You think that person is rude? No. I'm gonna go attest to the problem. I got business to take care of, so that's why I'm gonna go do it. But is it just me? Is it just me that feels this way? Isn't? There's always some sort of barrier. And if Becky and Susie are talking, and you try to interrupt Becky and Susie, oh, they're going to call you rude. because you're rude for interrupting. When if I ever have a conversation with one person always gets distracted. Like always. No, someone always gets distracted when I'm talking to them, but never distracted when someone else is talking to and clinging on to the conversation. And just like, oh, okay. And I think I said this in my last in season 2 is I had a couple of people. This is why I never have friends over. I had one person that came to my apartment all the time and just talking about themselves, and I'm over here trying to vent too, as well as he venting too. We can't both vent at the same time, and then he's thinking about his vents, and I'm thinking about my vents, and he's like, "Let me get my vent out first." It's like he wants someone to vent to. However, I want someone to vent to too. So we're just colliding and venting. We're not hearing each other out because he's trying to hear me out, and then he has a thought in his head and just completely ignores the fact that I was just talking. And that's the engagement I get. I've never had someone cling on to my conversation for a long time. I was never a cling on to conversation either, too. Like, I'm like, okay, that's my story and that's it. But still, the way people, how that barrier feels, it feels awful. Like, oh, somebody's dying. Oh, somebody's dying over here. Can I get your attention? And they're just completely ignore you. They look at you and then just look like their own little world. Like you're not complete. You're waving your hands out up in the belt, and then they're just like completely ignoring you, saying, "Oh, it's different stuff, subject that they're talking about." I don't know, man. I do not know. Sounds like a popping popcorn over here, bro. But yeah, this is just a random little video. If anybody agrees, if anybody doesn't agree, have you ever have you ever felt that way before in your lifetime where you feel like nobody's, everybody's ignoring you and they put a barrier in between and then they think they'd call you disrespectful for interrupting them. However, they can interrupt you at any time, be like, oh, and they're having a and then on the phone too, guys, on the phone there's a barrier. Maybe I'll make a separate video about that, but there is a barrier too on a phone call. When people put a barrier on a phone call, and I actually did make a video about that, about people, they don't know how to handle a phone call and then have distraction because my last, my last, my last person that worked in the back area of my store, his name was Jesse because he no longer works there, but still, his name was Jesse, and he used to have this barrier in between where if he was talking on the phone, he's talking on the phone. He wants no distractions whatsoever, and he wants you to shut up. And sometimes he did say that, shut up, I'm talking on the phone. And can you handle both phone and talk on the phone and talk to the person too? Like, there's so many barriers that I feel sometimes that it's just, if I do it, it's not a problem. People just can interrupt me anytime, anywhere. I start talking and then it just starts fading off and then they're just like talking about another thing. Well, do I only get these people here? Why can't I cling on to a conversation and have it there for a long, long time until it's over? I don't know. But yeah, hear me out. If you stayed in this whole entire video, let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.